Okay, so for the Monday webinar, we've got lots of great stuff to talk about. As always, guys, this is a pretty open forum, so please type over any questions, comments, anything. Anything you're thinking, anything you're doing, anything you want to look at, just send it on over. I'm happy to look at it, happy to discuss anything to the fullest of my ability. If you want to talk about like the Aussie New Zealand or like the Euro, South African rand, I'll give you my best guesses, and they'll be total guesses, and they might actually work. So just a disclaimer there. On some of the other regular pairs, though, we're actually going to focus really closely in on just a couple of pairs. I don't know if most of you, obviously, a lot of you guys are here because of the email or Twitter or so on. I am pretty excited / focused on three currency pairs in particular that I think are going to be good for a lot of pips. In fact, I'm pretty sure we should be able to get a pretty easy 500 plus pips out of each of these three pairs, which is why I talked about 1,500 pips worth of movements to discuss, because I think we've got some super great ones in the works. So, a couple of things to get out of the way really super quick. Number one, for anybody that is joining us, remember you can go to daytradersfx.com and just click on the About button here, and you can get a 5-day free trial to our live trading group, and it'll give you the information. There's two levels, one that includes the live chat room and one that just includes all the trade calls and webinars, recorded stuff through the website, but the more expensive, the big $59 level there, will include live chat room activity, which we do twice a day. So this wrap-up session that we're doing right now, or Monday webinar, whatever you want to call it, we actually do Monday through Thursday every single week, including live morning sessions as well, where we're on for a couple of hours during the U.S. sessions in the morning, and we take short-term trades, and we can take some long-term entries, and so on and so forth. So if you'd like to learn more about that, go to daytradersfx.com and click on the About button, and you'll be able to see a little bit more about that. Okay. Let's get down to the calendar real quick. Quick look at what we have coming up. As you can see, there's tons of news. Now, I have my filter on here, so I'm only looking at the high-impact news announcements. So there's actually like 100 news announcements this week, but I'm only looking at the high-impact ones, which there's still a ton of those. So we've already seen Sunday. I didn't do too much on Sunday. We saw a little bit of Aussie and yen news. Monday, this morning already, we've seen Bernanke spoke, didn't do a whole ton to the market, but got things going a little bit. We had the manufacturing PMI for the UK, which came out better than expected. We also had the ISM, which had the best numbers since 2011 for the US. And then coming up here in just a little over 20 minutes, we have retail sales for Australia. That'll probably be a bit of a muted mover. I think retail sales can usually move, a little bit for Australia. But the fact that just a couple hours later we have all this interest rate stuff and central bank statements coming out of Australia, I think the market's going to ultimately wait for that. And the big expectation is that nothing will change. The language won't change. The interest rate won't change. The central bank's just going to do what they always do. But this is going to be a big event. So if you're around your charts, we're going to talk about the Aussie dollar, in particular the Aussie dollar and the Euro Aussie today, which I think are two super great pairs to be trading. And this is going to be a big influencing factor on when we're going to be able to take those entries. Coming into Tuesday, we don't have much U.S. news, but we do have GDP for Australia. We have some construction PMI news for the U.K. and Spanish unemployment news for the Euro, which hopefully they bottomed out a little bit and they're starting to see some positive numbers. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Wednesday, tons of news. We have the ADP for the U.S. We have the services PMI for the U.K., trade balance for U.S. and Canada, interest rates for Canada, ISM, new home sales for U.S., trade balance for Australia. Good grief. Wednesday's a huge day. Thursday's another huge day. Interest rates and rate announcements for Europe and UK. That's huge. Preliminary GDP for the U.S. That's huge. And then Friday, of course, man, there's a long list of stuff here. We have non-farm payroll and employment numbers for Canada. So employment numbers for U.S. and Canada on Friday. And as always, we'll have a live session for that. And that'll be open for everybody. Everybody can attend that. I always like to do a live non-farm payroll session that is open to everyone. So tons of news this week, tons and tons of news. And so it's going to be super exciting. And I am very particularly and very specifically looking for some of the longer term, bigger setups. I think we have some great stuff in the works. As we wind down the year over the next month, I think we have some very, very great setups that are worth some big pips. One of the pairs that I'm kind of the least interested in right now is the euro dollar. The euro dollar has been doing a bunch, and basically all I'm looking at this point is euro dollars just kind of, it's trending up. It's holding this nice little trend. Two things that have my attention just a little bit is this run down right here. Yeah, I know, Steve. I know. I'm like a euro dollar diehard. I trade the thing to death. But over the last, couple of days or week, it's just been totally uninteresting. So, but there is, let me just qualify that with the fact that we do have a little bit of a continuation pattern here. We've had this big rundown and we've seen consolidation that has stopped at the 61.8% fib. This is a continuation pattern. Remember, this is kind of like a big bear flag. And so as soon as we break this trend line, we start getting back below about 13500. This should sell off nicely back into that 13300 area. So there's, so I guess it's not fair to say I'm totally not interested in the euro dollar, but I'm a little less excited about it. But at the break of 13500, and you can see that we're already at 135 42 43, so we're not super far away. At the break of this level right here, we should have probably a 200 pip movement to the downside. So that's something that's semi-exciting. So again, a big bearish continuation pattern on the daily chart. So below 13500, I'm looking to get short on that one again. And then we have a little bit of a bear flag on the 1 hour chart as well. We had this big spike down, and then it's kind of consolidated up. Now, one thing that I don't love here about the euro dollars, we had a missed daily pivot and a 61.8% fib and all that stuff right here at 136.30, and we got a high of about 136.21. Let me see, was that our high of 21? Yeah, 136.21. So we came within about 8 or 9 pips of hitting that missed daily pivot, and now it's working its way back down. So I don't love that a ton, but it's doing what it's doing, and what are we going to do? We have a nice little missed daily pivot back here from Friday of last week. Actually, not Friday of last week, the Friday of the week before. That's sitting down here at about 134.50, so that's a nice little 100 pip move down, for that being a little bit of a target. And then again, just a nice little bear flag type setup right here, and we'll keep our eye on this for the short term movement. And again, if this breaks and gives us a move down, we should see this starting to head down towards that missed daily pivot that's about 100 pips, and ultimately down towards that big support that's around 13300. So again, looking to really get that move below 13500, but the short term is this little 1 hour bear flag. We do have a missed daily pivot up here, which is about 20 pips higher than current market price. If it does spike up to that, I would be semi-interested in shorting at that point. Again, those are just a couple of comments on the euro dollar. It's not my big focus right now, although there is a pretty good setup. But on the short term stuff, that's kind of what we're looking at there. Does anybody have any comments about the euro dollar? I think that's kind of the quick, easy version here. Watch this 1 hour bear flag. Ultimately, look for the break of 13500, targeting 13300. Okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty here. Pairs that I'm super interested in. Now, remember on euro dollar, one more comment on that. On euro dollar, we do have, I think it was. Let me double check now. Is it Wednesday or Thursday of this week that we have the ECB and the the interest rate announcement? So it's Thursday of this week. So the euro might just chop around a little bit, and that's an argument for look for the smaller movements until the ECB and Draghi has a press conference and all of that stuff happens, which is Thursday. So that's another reason. As I remember now, that I am a little less interested in the immediate stuff on the euro dollar, besides the little short-term trades. Okay, but pound dollar. Questions, comments, by the way, guys. If you have any comments or questions on euro dollar or pairs we're talking about, just shoot them on over. Here's where things get kind of interesting. I am super interested in this pound dollar for a couple of reasons. I think the pound dollar has the potential of being a 500 pip trade. This is one of the three pairs that I think has great, huge, fantastic, excellent potential. Two things that I'm looking at. I'm looking to buy a dip and sell a rally in a big way on this pound dollar. Let me tell you what the buy the dip's going to be. It's really complicated. I'm looking to buy off the weekly pivot. That's about it. So nothing too exciting. I'm looking to buy right around 163.00. I think the pound dollar is going to easily be able to continue this rally, and so I'm just looking to buy that dip around 163.00. You can see that we're sitting at about 163.50, 60. This is a pretty easy move for this thing to spike down, 40, 50, 60 pips over the next several hours. So be ready for that. Buy the dip, pound dollar, 163.00. We're looking to buy around that weekly pivot. We want to get our stops. Probably on a move like this, you're going to need fairly large stops. I would have my stop at least below 162.50 and probably below 162.00. But I think 162.50 is at least a good start. That puts us right around these highs before this most recent breakout. There's lots of support there. There's lots of trend line activity. You can see this thing kind of declining in through this general area here. So anyways, 162.50-ish is there's tons of support there that's keeping that trade pretty safe. So definitely buying that dip of 163.00 with stops below 162.50, pretty safe. 162.00 probably even better. One thing that is a little bit concerning on getting too excited about buying is this nice little shooting star we have right here. This is the daily chart even. So we had this nice run up, and you can see that it hit that 38% fib, and it got rejected off that level pretty well. You can see a little bit better on this monthly chart here of the pound dollar. That 38% fib that it has fallen off of is the 38% fib from the high all the way back here in 2007 to the low of 2008, 9. I think it's January actually, so that'd be right at the low of 2009. So we've already reached that 38% fib, and it's just been consolidating and bouncing. Now, a couple of things that I'm looking at here is that the pound dollar has had a semi-limited range of movement over the last couple of years. 2010 we had a pretty big high to low. So the low to high here in 2010 was about 2,500 pips. 2009 we had this huge recovery after a almost 8,000 pip drop. We had a big recovery of about 3,500 pips, and it's just been consolidating more and more. So 2009 was 3,500 pips, 2010 2,500 pips, 2011 was about 1,500 pips. So you can see we lose about 1,000 pips every year from 2009. And then it's kind of stayed semi-steady with that kind of 1,500 pip range. So 2011 high to low for the entire year was right around 1,500 pips, pretty close to it. 2012 low to high was a bit less. We had a smaller year on that one, and that was only about 1,200 pips. And then we've seen 2013 so far have a low to high of about 1,600 pips. So this year's range has already exceeded the last 2 years. And this is where I think we're definitely getting into a slightly exhausted, potentially spent area. Now, one thing to remember is as markets consolidate, that usually leads to a breakout. But even if that's a big breakout, remember that the pound dollar in this big run down here is on a monthly chart has a huge continuation pattern in the bearish side of things. So this is a big, huge bear flag on the monthly chart, and so we're looking for this reversal to head down and break the lows of 2013, break this year's lows of 148, about 14800, and head back into some potential lows of 135. Now, of course, that's possibly a little ways out there, but at least if we can get back down to some yearly lows in the coming several months, this is going to be a fantastically huge, excellent trade. I don't think it's going to take several months to pay out. I think we can get our 500 pips in probably a couple of weeks. So, last but not least, what I'm looking for is I want to see, this goes back to the pound dollar. I want to buy that dip at 163.00, have my stops below 162.50. I'll risk 50 pips on that one at least, maybe even 100 pips. And our bigger target here is we're looking for the pound dollar to reach the highs of 2011. So we're looking to get up as close to 16700 as possible. If we can get up to 16700, then or around it, even 16600, which we've gotten pretty close. We get up to 164 and change. Then we're looking to short against 16700. We'll have our stops above 16700, shorting against that, targeting at least 150 to start off. And then potentially breaking these lows and heading for a much larger movement. But really, I mean, there's 1,000 pips in this trade, but I think to play it safe and easy, if we can get up to that 16700 area, and then we can just target essentially 160, 161, 162 area, there should be a very, very easy 500 pips trading off of the top of that range just back into the higher parts of the range. So that's what I think we're going to see on this pound dollar. But we do need to break some of these highs and get up there just a little bit more. Patrick, am I not concerned with taper on the table in the coming months? Yes, of course, but taper is in the coming months, and it could be months and months away. It could be a very minimum of 6 months away, which is probably what will happen, and that gives this plenty of time to make one more push higher. But I am absolutely counting on taper. On the tapering to fuel our dollar long trades, because there's a couple of dollar long trades that I'm looking at getting into. So yes, I'm counting on that helping us. So of the big trades, once again, we're looking to short pound dollar against 16700. We're going to buy it at 163 and target 165, 166 area. With some pretty tight stops. We're going to just hold on to this thing. Once we get into a buy, we're going to try to hold on to it till the end of the year. So I'm looking to hold on to this pound dollar for at least a month. But, of course, if it stops us out, that changes things and so on. But the other thing that I'm looking at as well is we have a missed weekly pivot from a couple of weeks ago on this pound dollar, and that's at 160.50. And that is a huge, huge target that we're waiting for. And we're currently about 300 pips away from that. We have spiked as far as almost 400 pips away from it, but not far enough. We need to get a good 600-700 pips away from that weekly pivot, which puts us right at that 16700, right at that 2011 high. That is the big trade. Anywhere within 100 pips of 167, or I guess safe to say anywhere about 166 and higher, I'm 100% short pound dollar, and I'm targeting once again, the 160 area and beyond. But for the short term, let's buy that 16300. Anybody have any questions? That was a good question, Patrick. Good thing to bring up for sure. Any questions on that? This is going to be a longer term trade. One thing that we're going to be doing a little bit more is shifting towards some of these longer term, bigger setups. One thing that I think a lot of people have problems with is simply the schedule of trading, and myself included. I've traded for 12 years, and I've done countless all-nighters, and had a heck of a time, trying to keep my life together, staying up all night and trying to sleep in the daytime, or getting up super early, or whatever the case may be. And I don't know if there's any way around getting up kind of early and checking on things, but what we're really looking to focus on is big pip runs. Yeah, exactly. Looking for some swing trades. We're looking for some trades that we can get into and not have to stay up, hours and hours and hours trying to grab these little tiny 20 and 30 pip trades, which those are okay too. But there's really some fantastic long-term setups in the works, and this pound dollar is definitely one of those. Okay, so that's pound dollar. That is what I'm looking for. Yeah, those schedules can be rough, Patrick. They definitely can, and I've been trying to find ways around them for years, and I think long-term trading is probably going to be our better bet. But the kinds of setups that I look for aren't trades that that we have to wait months and months to get into, and then months and months to pay out. We may have to wait a couple of weeks to get into some of these trades, and we may have to be in them for a couple of weeks, but these setups happen on many, many currency pairs, and so there's opportunities. There's several of these long-term trade opportunities every month, so super excited about that. Okay, Aussie dollar. I have no real excitement on the short term on the Aussie dollar. I don't really know what I would be doing on the short term here. One thing that we've seen on the Aussie dollar is that it has run down a nice little, just about 400 pips in the last couple of weeks. This little range right here, and even if we go a little bit more, it's run down almost 500 pips over the last about month. On this recent run here, we've crossed the 23% fib, which we know to be a good starting point to start reaching that 38, even 50% fib. And it looks like it's finding a little bit of support down here. What I'm ultimately looking to do is get long Aussie dollar. I want to get long this this pair like crazy. Now, one spot that we have to keep an eye on is these obvious lows, 90.55. That's an obvious level that we just got to watch, and we'll keep an eye on that. But I think we'll have an opportunity. There's going to be traders that are trying to get the break of this low and short the break of this low. And I am looking to buy the Aussie dollar around 90, the 90 area, maybe 89.75. Now, that's not super far. As you can see, we're at 91.19. So I want to see this get down another 100 to 150 pips. And then I'm going to look to buy the Aussie dollar. We have this huge head and shoulders pattern that has been playing out very nicely, and we've come off of this 200 moving average very well, and a bunch of things have happened that have been really great and super. We have a couple of missed weekly pivots here. We have a missed weekly pivot from last week that's way up here, and we have a missed weekly pivot from the previous week that's back here as well. So you can see that those two guys are fantastic targets. Now, they're not super far away, which is why we need to get a little bit further down there. As far as all of the things that I look at to find an overextended pair, the Aussie dollar isn't quite there yet, and that's why I think we've got another 100 to 150 pips down before we start buying this. So there's a possibility we could miss this trade. That's always possible. We have so much Aussie news coming in the next couple of hours that's pretty important. In fact, in just a few minutes we have retail sales. That's kind of a big deal, and then the interest rate announcement a few hours after, which is a huge deal. So we have to just see how those things behave. If the Aussie continues lower, if the central bank says that there are big things they're doing to weaken the Australian dollar, then we could even lower our entry to buy that dip even more, especially if it runs down to that 90 or 89.75 immediately, because definitely when central banks talk, things start to slide. But I think we have a very, very nice potential, especially if we get down here to this 89.75 area. I think we have a great opportunity for some, again, for another 500 pip trade or so, because we've got this great little missed weekly pivot that's sitting up here at 94.11. Do we have another missed weekly pivot besides that one? Oh, we do. So we have 3 missed weekly pivots. There we go. I was forgetting about this guy. So this one's all the way back here at 96.30. And then we have another one that is at 94, about 94.10, and then we have last week's missed weekly pivot that's about 92.28. We have 3 consecutive missed weekly pivots on the Aussie dollar, which is one of the main reasons I'm looking to buy into this dip. So let me remind myself exactly where we are. So we're about 500 pips away from the furthest of the missed weekly pivots. So just a nice 500 pip run from there. So absolutely looking to get long, but I think we need one more dip of about 100 pips on the Aussie dollar. Not looking to do anything in the short term, just waiting for that bigger dip to see where see if we can get in just a little bit lower. But loving the Aussie dollar on that dip. But again, we'll have to see how central bank stuff goes. Okay, as far as yen pairs go, I'm not super interested in anything yen right now. Pound yen's looking pretty good. Aussie yen, pound yen, euro yen. Let's see, I think Aussie yen. All have missed weekly pivots for this week, so those are things to keep an eye on. We know what to do with missed weekly pivots. We got to keep an eye on those. Be ready to trade those moves. The next big trade that I think is fantastically, excellently wonderful is the euro Aussie. The Euro Aussie has done something really super cool, which is this right here. We had a nice double bottom back here in March and April of this year, down around 122. And then we saw the Euro Aussie hike about 2,700 pips pretty much nonstop. And it left a lot of missed targets along the way there. It just went straight up. Huge double top. We've run up to that double top once again. And so basically, a couple of things that I'm looking at. Number one is of this big movement up here. From the highest point, we have crossed the 23% fib several times, and we have not reached the 38% fib. That is something that's usually indicative of we're going to get to that 38% fib. We've crossed the 23 a bunch of times there, and it just hasn't made it all the way down. And we've now triple topped. Well, more of a big double top here. This one was just a little bit shy of a full of that exact level, but we've come up and touched this exact level from the high of August of this last year. And so that's a big thing, number one, that I'm looking for. I want to see us cross on this movement here. It's always a good idea to see a cross of that 23% fib, which is at 147, really about 14800. It's just about 14800. So getting below that, and you can see here that we are at about 148.40. Breaking down below that should be a good starting point for this, for the big Aussie yen or Euro Aussie shorts that we're looking for. Number two, we have big missed weekly pivots. We have this weekly pivot back here that is now 160, just about 160 pips away, and then we have another one from a couple of weeks ago that's 640 pips away. So what I'm suggesting on the Euro Aussie is we're currently about 190 pips from the high. So we have opportunity number one, which is sell the break of 14800, which I think is a pretty good bet, and likewise. Buy the spike once again. If we can get in a little bit closer to this 150.30, I really like that. Now that's 190 pips away, but I don't think that that's out of the question for the market to get pretty close to that again. So if we see a spike of around 75, 100 pips somewhere in there, let's look for entries around 149.50, 149.75, and let's get some stops above this 150.30, and let's first off, we're going to target about 146.75 is going to be our first target, and then we're going to go all the way down here to this next missed weekly pivot around 14200. And so that's going to be, as you can see, a pretty fantastic setup there. And this comes in nicely with my 500 give or take pip trade, because my ultimate target here is about 750 pips. And it'll get there. That's the best part about it. It will get there. So that's what I'm looking for in the Euro Aussie, and that's where I think some of our best opportunities are going to be. I'm honestly almost completely bored with some of these other pairs to start the week off. I don't see anything really excellent. Or maybe it's just that I see such great setups on other pairs that I don't even want to think about the others. But pound dollar is going to be a great opportunity. Buy that dip 16300. Look to sell the rally around 16600. Stops above 16700. Aussie dollar, we're looking to see how the central bank news goes, but buy the dip around 90/89.75. Targeting 9500 to start things off, and then a little bit beyond there. And then Euro Aussie, sell the break of 14800, or my preferred entry is look for sell entries up around 149.50, which is about 100 pips above current market price. So those are the things that I'm looking for. Those are some really excellent setups, and really we're looking for 15 to 2,500 pips of movement just in these three pairs. So I hope everyone's excited about those. I hope everyone's clear about those as well. If you have any questions about what I've just mentioned, discussed, please don't hesitate to ask any questions. And I'm going to update everything. I'll update Twitter, but I'll specifically be updating things in the chat room here after the central bank news in Australia in 3 hours. So it's going to be about 3 hours before we know what the RBA does and how interest rates are looking and what the language is on the rate statement and so on. So that is going to be a big important thing. But those three pairs have tons and tons and tons of pips waiting for us. At what point on the pound dollar, if it breaks to the downside, do we go with it short instead of going long? 162.50 is going to be kind of a starting point that we need to think about shorts, and 162.00 is kind of that it's time to get short pound dollar. So it'll be between 162.50 and 162.00 that it'll be buying opportunities on the pound dollar. Good question, Steve. Good question. Okay, guys, I'm going to update. I'll update the notes here. You guys are welcome to stick around for a couple of minutes and see what these notes say. They're just kind of reminders of what we've talked about. Again, if you'd like to get a free trial to the trade group and kind of follow us and see how all of these trades play out over this week and next week, please feel free to do so. You can go to daytradersfx.com and click on About, and you can get a free trial, and you can trade with us this week. We'd love to have you. Okay, guys, best of luck. I will update these notes, and then I will send out the recording. So if you're not on the email list, I think most of you guys should be on the email list, but if you're not, just go to daytradersfx.com, and you can enter your email there, and you'll get the updates and the recording of this and so on. So, questions, comments, let me know. I will get this recording going right now, and I'll get those notes updated as well.